Let's talk human rights, Victor. You've called Uyghurs in China's Xinjiang province your brothers and sisters. How do you feel about the fact that at least 500,000, some say more, of your brothers and sisters are being detained in camps by the Chinese government? That's 5% of the adult Uyghur population, one of the highest imprisonment detention rates in the world.
Mehdi, the Uyghurs are a proud ethnic group, one of the 56 ethnic nationalities in China. The Uyghurs, as far as I'm concerned, are my true brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but welcome back to another Fury episode of Zees Political Couch, where we throw political correctness out the window and dive headfirst into the deep end of geopolitical drama. Today we're peeling back the layers of the conversation hotter than the wok in a Beijing kitchen, as Mehdi grills Victor on one of the most controversial issues of our time, the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in China. Picture this, a diplomatic dance-off where Mehdi's wielding facts like a sword and Victor's dodging like he's in a kung fu flick. We'll explore the back and forth on detention numbers, human rights, and what really goes on behind the Great Wall. So grab your popcorn, because on Zee's Political Couch, we're serving up truth with a side of spice.
I know many of them. I travel to Xinjiang regularly, and I talk to many of the Uyghurs. Now, if anyone is serious about accusing China of practicing mass injustice to the Uyghurs, give me the evidence.
I think Human Rights Watch say 500,000 people detained over the years in recent years.
You keep quote Human Rights Watch, and I tell you...
Do you know where they got those numbers from?
I don't know.
Can I tell you?
I don't know.
I thought you were the expert on... You've been to Xinjiang, you've spoken to Uyghurs. You never heard these numbers?
I do not know where did they get the source.
So their source is the Xinjiang High People's Procuratorate, which has published its own statistics, Xinjiang official body, which says it's convicted 540,826 people prosecuted in the region since 2017. The United Nations Office for Human Rights looked at satellite footage. They say 10 to 20% of the population. Amnesty estimates 1 million people in camps. 500,000 is a conservative number.
Mehdi, if you quote that organization, please be assured that that organization has been completely discredited for the false information they came up with.
I love this game we're playing. You give me a source, I give you a source. They're discredited. They've said falsehoods.
Mehdi,
how can let me ask you a question. How many people are in detention in Xinjiang? You give me a number.
Listen, if you look at Xinjiang...
You give me a number.
If you look at... I do not have the number.
Why not?
Yeah.
Hold on. You can't say it's not 500,000 and then say you don't have a number. I have a number. I have sources. How many people do you think are detained?
Let me give you my reason.
No.
I go to Xinjiang a lot. I travel almost
So they're your brothers and sisters.
Xinjiang.
You go there a lot, but you can't tell me how many people are in detention.
Listen, they are happier. They enjoy their life. They enjoy their Muslim practices and traditions. Listen.
How many people are in detention, Victor?
Mehdi, let me be philosophical.
No, don't be philosophical. Be numerical.
No.
How many people are in detention? You said no to 500,000. How about, okay, let's let 250,000.
Let me finish my point.
Nope. You answer the question. You can't filibuster, Victor, on the show.
If anyone
how many
promotes
people do you think
independence, they will be dealt with in
Got it.
law.
How many of them are in court? How many in detention?
A very small minority.
So you don't have a number. You say they're all happy, but you won't let in independent investigators. You won't let in journalists to go there.
Why not?
They're not allowed to go there.
I will be happy to escort you to Xinjiang.
Really?
I can make that promise.
Really?
I will speak to the Chinese government.
Here's the problem,
to the
Victor.
Chinese
I don't want
embassy.
to escort. I don't want minders. I want to go freely. Will you allow that?
I do not make that decision.
Oh! A moment ago, you were going to make all sorts of interruptions. Suddenly I said, let me go freely and speak to Uyghurs freely. Can I do that with no minders?
I'll be happy.
No Chinese government escort.
I will be happy to make your case.
Oh, just now you said you'd organize it. Now we're about make a case. You can't guarantee. Rehan Assad is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, international human rights lawyer. You are a Uyghur who Victor says, brothers and sisters. Your literal brother has been held in an internment camp in Xinjiang since 2016, I believe. Rehan, tell us what happened to your brother, and what is your response to Victor, to what you've heard, and what is the latest on your brother, if you don't mind sharing with us?
Yeah, my brother Akbar Assad is a prominent tech entrepreneur. In fact, your own media outlet called him a bright star in the tech world. Right before his detention, he was invited on a state gala dinner, and then he disappeared. How could you explain that?
Mehdi, again, in China, we have about 20 Muslim ethnic groups. You need to ask one question. Why the extremism existed mostly among the Uyghur communities? Because there are extremists among the Uyghur community who want to separate Xinjiang away from China.
Has your brother been convicted of any crime?
Supported by CIA and other Western organizations.
CIA. Okay. Rehan,
that's the real truth.
Hold on.
Talk to the Kazakhs, they don't support.
Has your brother been
Xinjiang
convicted of a crime?
According to UN, there's no trial has taken place. He just forcibly disappeared. Actually, it amounts to enforced disappearance. But according to the Chinese government, he committed a crime of inciting ethnic discrimination while he's systematically oppressed. And when I challenged that decision, because under the Chinese law, if you're committed with the alleged crime, that you have 3 years sentence, but he got 15 years. How do you justify that? Then they switch the crime. So how do you even explain this is a rule of law system? You mentioned that if people are not pro-independent, then they're fine in Xinjiang. My brother by no means is pro-independent. In fact, your media outlet, Zees daily media, invited him to exchange information. Did he split the country when he visited Beijing? Are
you okay with the treatment of her brother?
In front of this very august body, let me make several very brief points. The real crime involved by some of the Uyghur people are agitating for Xinjiang independence. They violate the One China policy. Now, separate from that, different communities may find their own different problems which need to be sorted out in the course of law. And I hope...
But our brother's been detained for 8 years.
Well, I do not know the charge. I hope I can help you to really look at the case, at the accusation against him.
Yeah,
I hope your brother is not guilty of inciting for separatism of Xinjiang.
Briefly.
If that is the case, then let the law take its course.
Well, your media outlet called him a model citizen who is a promoter of ethnic unity in Xinjiang.
Have you been able to speak to your brother or see
No, not at all. For 8 years, he's forcibly disappeared. Up until last month, for the first time, my parents saw him. What kind of justice system is that? You're making a mockery
You're not
of the
just
rule of
detaining
law.
them, Victor. They're being tortured. Numerous testimonies the UN has collected. Are you okay with that?
Mehdi, when you talk about torture, think about Guantanamo Bay prisons.
Oh, my word.
Rather than in Xinjiang. Xinjiang is a place of great peace and stability.
The accounts, hold on, Victor, the accounts
country.
of detainees include being beaten with batons, electric batons, while strapped in a so-called tiger chair. 158 being subjected to interrogation with water poured on their faces, prolonged solitary confinement, forced to sit motionless on stools for long periods. You're okay with this? This is the proud China?
Probably you are reading the case in Iraq committed by the American soldiers.
I'm reading the UN report in August 2022 from detainees who came out of camps in Xinjiang. Your brothers and sisters, but these brothers and sisters you don't seem to give a damn about. How do you know any torture happened in Iraq out of interest?
I know.
How?
I know for sure.
How?
I talked to the Iraqi ambassador in Beijing.
Okay.
He wept in front of me.
And I'm sure Rehan's parents have wept, and you don't seem to care.
And I hope you will tell your brother, be a staunch supporter of One China policy, be a proud
I cannot
Chinese
tell him he's
Uyghur,
in prison.
She can't tell him because she can't speak to him, because you deny access, Victor.
China.
Victor, she can't speak to him. Are you going to arrange it? Are you going to arrange a visit now?
I'll be happy to help you to make a phone call.
There's a lot of promises being made here, guys. You should follow up on this afterwards.
You are all witnesses.
We are witnesses, indeed. Let me bring in Martin Jakes. Martin, when you hear people say, basically, there's no torture, everyone's making it up, there's nobody in detention, come on, that's ridiculous, is it not, Martin?
Well, I mean, I don't know all the details of the situation in Xinjiang, but clearly there's been a big problem for a long time in Xinjiang in terms of the relationship between the Uyghur and the Han. And that came to a head in 2009 when there was a demonstration and 200 people were killed by the Uyghur. And then the Chinese inflicted the same kind of damage on the Han. So this is a deep problem in my view, and it's not easily passed off. There's no other problem in China of this kind.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people consider
this is a big problem.
That's a pretty big problem.
It's a very big problem for them. Yeah. But the other thing, Mehdi, I'd say is that the point that's being made about separatism is true. That I think that the 30 million Muslims in China, the Hui is the biggest single minority. Yeah. They are completely integrated. But the problem in Xinjiang is clearly the issue of separatism.
Stephen, let me ask you this question. Victor's making a lot of promises tonight about me going to Xinjiang and Rehan going to Xinjiang and everyone's going to be fine. How safe how okay are you with visiting China? How free do you think you are when you go to China?
When I go to China, and I haven't been for some time, I'm watched almost 24/7. There's always someone I can spot is trailing me. So I know when my hotel room is upgraded suddenly to a spacious suite, I'm now in a place which is bugged. So someone who's a mild critic and a scholarly critic like me doesn't feel safe in China. By contrast, I feel safer in Taiwan.
If I could just pause here real quick, I need to call this out. Victor's performance in this debate is like watching someone try to juggle flaming torches while insisting there's no fire. First, he claims to know how many Uyghurs and regular visits to Xinjiang, yet he's clueless about the detention numbers. He plays the show me the evidence card only to dismiss every source presented. Mehdi throws in SAT from Human Rights Watch and the UN, but Victor's response? They're discredited. It's the classic deny, deflect, distract routine. Victor's inability to provide a number is telling. He scoffs at 500,000 detainees, but has no figure of his own. Mehdi rightly presses him. You can't say it's not 500,000 without a number. Victor tries to philosophize, but Mehdi's having none of it. It's like watching someone dodge a dodgeball game they signed up for. Also, Victor promises to arrange visits to Xinjiang is laughable. He flip-flops between offering an escort and making a case, clearly unable to guarantee free, unmonitored access. It's a classic case of over-promising and under-delivering. And lastly, the cherry on top, Martin and Stephen input highlighting the deep-rooted issue and lack of freedom in China. Victor's rosy depiction of Xinjiang crumbles under scrutiny, revealing a reality far from his utopian narrative. In the end, Victor's arguments are as stable as a house of cards in a wind tunnel.
Victor, when you hear Stephen say he doesn't feel that safe going to China, prefers going to Taiwan, when we talk about freedom of speech, for example, in China, I live in the United States of America, where I can say that Donald Trump is hypothetically, an orange-faced narcissist. I also live here in the UK, I'm British. Here you have Rishi Sunak, the former Prime Minister, was called a pint-sized loser by a Labour politician. No one in China has that kind of freedom to talk about their government, to talk about President Xi Jinping in that way. You can't say anything like that. You wouldn't dare say anything like that because you know what will happen to you when you go home. You know what will happen to your family. That's what China is.
Mehdi, if you do anything, write anything, email or chat to your friends about taking anything action against, let's say, Prime Minister of Britain, President of the United States,
I didn't say that.
You'll be dealt with
That's
very
not what I said.
swiftly.
Victor, you're a master of straw men. That's not what I said. I said Rishi Sunak was called a pint-sized loser. Would you call Xi Jinping a pint-sized loser?
Mehdi, each country has different sensitivities. In UK...
So you're admitting you can't criticize the Chinese government?
No. You can criticize the government if you are positive in your attitude.
You can criticize the government if you're positive?
Yes.
Is that the new philosophy?
No, if you can come up with your...
You've got to come up with nice insults?
No.
What then?
Constructive advice.
Constructive advice?
For example,
I'm loving
in dealing with the aging population, what should be the government do? What should this governor do?
But you can't say the president's lied. He's a liar.
No, you will be dealt with very swiftly in China. You cannot say that.
That is the most honest thing you've said tonight. Yes. Victor Gao, we're going to take a break. That's part one of Head-to-Head with our guest, Victor Gao. In part two, we'll be talking about President Xi Jinping. We'll be talking about the issue of dictatorship, and we'll hear from our very patient audience here in London's Conway Hall.
So what do you think? Is Victor just out of his depth? Or is there more to his deflections? And what about the voices of Xinjiang we haven't heard? If you're curious to explore these questions and more, subscribe to our channel. We're here to dig deep, challenge narratives, and bring you the insight others miss. Until next time, stay sharp and stay engaged.